What's happening, guys? Element 12 here. What do you think of my new intro? I've been wanting to change it up because, hey everybody, Element 12 here. I feel like it's a little too generic, so I want to do something a little more unique. So if you like that one, let me know. Just want to try something new. And welcome to another episode of Element 12 Rants. This is the new official name for whatever this is, where I just talk about stuff that I want to talk about. And I have another topic I was going to talk about, but I'll save it for next time, because I kind of want to make a part 2 for the Fire Emblem Warriors one, mostly because it just exploded. Like, I did not expect it to do that well, but it did really well. And just for that, guys, I want to thank you all so much. I think it's quickly becoming one of the most popular videos on my channel, and I really appreciate it. And normally, I would be able to just reply with comments to individual, thoughts, concerns, whatever. But since there were so many comments going by, I had no time to be able to reply to every single one. So what I decided to do is make a part 2, just to bring up a lot of common things that people brought up that I didn't think about, or points I might have been iffy about, and just make an entirely sort of separate video about it. I hope you guys think that's cool. What I want to talk about first is, before I really get into the main meat of what I'm going to talk about, I want to bring up a few things. One thing is, I know for a fact I want to Let's Play this game, so I think I'm going to Let's Play the Japanese version when it comes out. I don't know if you guys think I should do that, or you think I should wait until the English version comes out to Let's Play it. I don't know. If you guys have a particular thought about that, let me know. And, I'll see what I can do about that, see what I want to do about that. Because I know for a fact it'll be in Japanese version and the English version still. And before I get into actual talking about the points I want to bring up, I want to just say a few things real quick. One is that there were a lot of comments about people who had the same or similar opinions to me, and really appreciated the fact that I was there to bring a voice online that was positive, despite the fact that most of the really popular, like, Fire Emblem Let's Players, or just popular Let's Players and channels about Fire Emblem in general, are being generally really negative about this game. So I just want to, that's one of the reasons I want to make the original video, is that I know for a fact I can't be the only one who felt this way about Fire Emblem Warriors. I knew there had to be other people out there who were excited and, weren't 100% thrilled with everything they were doing, but still liked the game and still wanted to get the game. So I feel really great when I saw comments like that. And thank you, obviously, for coming to the video, and I want to just give a quick thumbs up to those guys. I know there were a lot of people who generally disagreed or brought up other points, but it all stayed civil, which I appreciate that. The way the internet is, I know it could go into chaos, it could go into just shouting matches at people. Obviously, there are people who corrected other people, but it stayed civil. You can clearly tell they weren't arguing, and they were just talking. Or, replying back and forth to each other. So, I appreciate the fact that we could have civil conversations in the comments. And obviously, I'm not going to shut down comments. If it got, really overboard, I might. But even with that, I don't feel like I would. So I appreciate the fact that everyone stayed civil. And I've obviously, I still get the same thing here. It'd be much appreciated. That being said, let's talk about some of the points that I want to bring up that other people brought up. One of the main ones that I not first saw, but one of the ones I saw that struck me, not in a bad way, just, made me, go back and look around, was, during my initial video, I mentioned DLC. And somebody said, and I said that they pretty much said they're going to do DLC. But somebody in the comments mentioned that they technically didn't announce DLC yet. Which, on one hand, is technically true. I mean, on a point, it is true. The interview that I was talking about, that I mistakenly thought that they were saying they had DLC in the works. They mentioned the interview that I was thinking of, and the interview itself, I'm going to just quote real quick. The interview, they asked about, this is during E3 of this year, so, late June, or mid to late June. They asked, the question was, Hyrule Warriors enjoyed a very long post-launch thanks to DLC and free updates. Are there plans to support the game after launch with additional content? And they responded with, we definitely appreciate the fact that people are looking forward to that kind of follow-up after the main game's released. But right now, we're just focused on creating the main game, so that's something you'll have to wait to find out about until later. End quote. Which, that's more or less saying there's gonna be DLC. They basically said, wait, we're focusing on the release of the main game right now. Wait a little while, there's gonna be DLC. So, like, technically, I was wrong because they didn't say, yes, there's going to be DLC. They just said, wait on it. Which essentially means, wait, if you want DLC, wait a little while, we'll maybe get some DLC. So, I was technically wrong, and I'll admit that. But, when you hear a quote like that, that roughly means we're gonna get DLC, you know? Let's just be real about that. Another point people brought up is bad voice acting. Which, yes, the dubbing is kind of shit. But to be fair, pretty much all the Muso games I've played so far have been subbed. The ones I think that were dubbed, I think was Dynasty Warriors for the PlayStation 4 was the last one I played that had a dub to it. Oh wait, there was, I'm trying to remember. I think Dragon Quest Heroes had a dub, which it was like super British and weird, but I haven't played the original game, so I don't know about if that dub's accurate. Dynasty Warriors being alright. I know in past games they said dubs in Muso games have not been super good, but usually it's subbed. And when I play Muso games, I typically just play them subbed for the most part, so the bad voice acting, you know, if that's something that really turns you off, I understand that. But again, it doesn't bug me that much since there is a subbed option. I do believe you can play it subbed or dubbed. So as long as there's that doesn't matter for me. I'll probably play it, you know, I'll probably play it dubbed just because I'm getting the Japanese version ahead of time, so I'm already used to hearing Japanese dialogue. So, you know, just for a change of pace. But, you know, if people don't like it, I understand that. I wasn't a big fan of the voice acting, but at the same time, it didn't make me want to shove an ice pick in my ears. So, you know, there's that. Another thing people brought up, which I totally forgot about, is that it's coming out a week before Super Mario Odyssey, and people are generally concerned about just how it's selling well. Which, that is a concern. I mean, I feel like that's not the reason why people hate the game, but that's just a concern about the game. But, in the defense of another, you know, Nintendo games do the same thing, Smash Brothers for the Wii U came out on the exact same day, if I do recall correctly, as Pokemon Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And both games stood out on their own as individual games, and both sold, as far as I'm aware of, pretty well. Obviously, Wii U wasn't a huge selling console, but I think as far as Wii U games are concerned, it sold well. So, I'm not super concerned, especially because it's a week before and not, you know, the same day. If it was the same day, I could see it as a concern. But a week before, it gives us some more time. And I feel like just in general, people just want more Switch games. And even if we get them right after another Switch game, that's cool, because people just want Switch games. Because right now, there's not a lot of Switch games out right now. I only have, what, 5, 6 Switch games right now? And I want more Switch games. So I feel like people have the same thought where they just want more Switch games. So the more we can get, more Switch games we can get, the better. Another thought which someone brought up, I forgot, I don't remember specific usernames because there were a lot of comments. And I apologize for not remembering specific usernames. But I love all of you. Is that no other real modes have been announced. Generally, there's story mode. And then they said there was a Coliseum mode announced, as according to what they've seen, relatively bare bones. And that's it so far. And like something like Hyrule Warriors had like a crazy huge adventure mode, which that shit was fucking crazy, and I loved adventure mode in that game. It was ridiculous and took me forever to get close to beating. I think I only beat 2 or 3 maps in adventure mode, as far as I can recall. Because there's so many maps, especially with the DLC maps, jeez. But, I mean, that's also a concern that there's not any other additional modes. Typically for most Musos, there is, like, a story mode, there's some sort of free mode, and depending on the game, maybe another mode, and then that's about it, for the most part. Because when I playing Muso All-Stars, or Warriors All-Stars, there's basically story mode, and that's it. That's all there was, just a story mode. In the Berserk Muso, there was a story mode, there was Endless Eclipse mode, and there was a free mode. So yeah, it's usually like that. There's usually 3 modes. So I feel like there's going to be story mode, there's going to be the Coliseum mode, which essentially is I feel like their version of free mode, they just want to call it something different. And I feel like there's going to be one new mode, but it just hasn't been announced yet. I don't know how early the adventure mode was announced before the release of Hyrule Warriors, but that adventure mode was freaking crazy and it was great. But I do believe there's going to be another mode. They just haven't announced it yet. So, you know, it's got to be positive. Another thing people brought up is that the original characters, I don't remember their names at all, because they're just so whatever, aren't very good. Which, yes, you're right. The original characters suck. But I love Hyrule Warriors. And Hyrule Warriors has an original character. Her name is Lana. And I hate her. I know other people don't hate her, but I do. She's super annoying. Every single playstyle she had was really awkward. Like, her main style was the book, and that was awkward. She had the Deku Stick, which that was super awkward. And she had the Summoning Gate, which that one was crazy super awkward. So, and like, almost unusable for the most part, unless you timed it really, really well. So yes, Lana sucks. The original villains were good. Volga, Wizro, which was one of my favorite characters in the game, and Sia. They were all really good characters. But again, we don't have any villains yet, as far as I'm aware of. I think all we have is whatever characters we've announced, and and obviously the original characters. There's no like hint of what the bad guy is or bad guys are yet, which is interesting. I guess they want to keep it a mystery. It's cool. We'll eventually see. But yes, the original characters in crossover games suck for the most part. Warriors All-Stars, I'll bring up that point. I love Warriors All-Stars. It's a fun game. I hate the original characters. They're annoying. They're weird, like, lolly furries, and it's really weird. The original characters in Orochi were okay. Like, they weren't great. I remember there was Kaguya was great. The other ones was kind of They existed, but weren't anything that special. So, original characters aren't that great, but I feel like in crossover games like this, if there are original characters, usually they're not typically that great of characters. They're more just there as a catalyst to run the story through and to meet characters from the other games. So essentially just there's a character, they're the reasons why we're seeing characters from other games together. So I can see that being a thing because I agree with it. But again, there's characters from other Fire Emblem games that I'm excited about, so the original characters, I'll play them. If they play well, I'll play them. If not, I'm probably just going to ignore them. Another thing people brought up, and I see in other comments for other related videos, is that so far Martha's the only character announced for Shadow Dragons. And, you know, that's it. On one hand, isn't Tiki's not technically announced, I don't think. There's an amiibo coming out around the same time as the game is, which I feel, in my eyes, I feel that is basically saying she's going to be in the game, but they haven't officially announced it yet, so I can see that. But they have at one point said they are going to show off some Shadow Dragon characters, so it's not like there isn't going to be, it's just they haven't shown them yet. Which, I feel like that's the issue, is that I feel like when we get this game, it's going to be great. But the problem is they're not showing a lot, which is interesting. They're not showing a lot that either want to keep a surprise, or what they have is great, which I want to hope it's the first one. Because despite, at the end of the day, it's a Musou game. And I fucking love Musou games. And I love Awakening, I like Shadow Dragons, Fates is alright. So I'm generally going to like the game overall, so you know. There's that. And then the overall roster, which I feel like is a major reason, which, again, that's more of a divisive thing, where if you like the games that they have, which is Shadow Dragon, Awakening, and Fates, then you'll like the game. If you don't like those games as much, you're not going to like the games, which I can see that. But at the same time, it's a Musou, and Musou games are fun. And if you like Fire Emblem and you like beating the heck out of lots of dudes, get it. It's super fun. But anyway, I saw a few other points, but I just wanted to say that. But the overall points about the roster is people brought up, because in my video, I mentioned that people were okay with the 3-game thing when Fire Emblem did it, but they were okay with it when Fire Emblem Warriors is now doing it. And people generally said it's because those are two completely different franchises. Hyrule Warriors have a lot, Zelda games have a lot less characters in them. as opposed to Fire Emblem games, which have a lot more characters in them. Which, on one hand, yes, I see that. But I feel like there's very clear reasons of why they did it this way. The big reason is because it worked for Hyrule Warriors, I feel like. Because they saw it's like they picked 3 games to focus on, later released some DLC, it worked, people loved it a lot. It was a hugely successful game, so cool. I think it's one of the most successful Muso games, period. But, I don't know if I have the numbers for that for sure. But since it worked so well in that, they just figured, we'll do that. And it's a safe play, and I can see that. That makes sense for me anyway. Would I want it the other way around? Obviously. I would love to see more, like a few characters from each game all together. But, again, I'm just explaining why I feel like they did it this way. Another reason is the story focus. Usually when they have characters like, say, like Warriors Orochi or like Warriors All-Stars, for example, they have a lot of characters that branch from all sorts of different games and all sorts of different animes or whatever. The story is a giant clusterfuck and usually doesn't make any sense. For Hyrule Warriors, however, they tried to make a story out of it. Usually for big clusterfuck crossovers, the story is pointless. And, like, the story's there and people are like, okay, cool. But at the end of the day, people just want to see the characters over and the story is just kind of whatever. Hyrule Warriors, they tried to make a story out of it. And I felt like the story was good. I liked the story of Hyrule Warriors. Obviously, it's probably the best original story of a Muso game. That was an original story. But overall, you know, it was a fun thing. And I feel like they want to do something. Again, if they're trying to do the similar notes as Hyrule Warriors, they want a more focused story mode. And since they want a more focused story mode, instead of having a clusterfuck of characters, they want to focus on characters from 3 different franchises to have a little more story focus and to make a little more sense. I can see that. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm going to cut this part out. The third reason, and probably the biggest reason, is just because it's way too much work. Like, for Awakening and Fates, it's a newer Fire Emblem game, so there's already relatively, like, recent 3D models for those games. For Shadow Dragons, obviously the only one is Marth, so they have to make a lot of the Shadow Dragons characters and the original characters from scratch, which, you know, takes work, and I dig that. Stuff like, again, like Marth's game, like older games, there's not a lot of 3D models. For stuff like Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, they are 3D models, but they're relatively outdated, I believe. So if they want to do that, they would have to probably, you know, update them or remake them or whatever, and that takes a lot of work. If they made a game with a few characters from every single Fire Emblem game, that would take a long time. We would not get that game for another 1.5 years. And I'm happy with the way they did it. Obviously, a lot of people don't really think about this aspect, I guess. But I've done game development work for a few years now. Nothing to the level of that kind of game. Just me doing some, you know, side stuff. But I know offhand from experience that game development work is crazy difficult. Obviously, they have a larger studio, they can do that kind of stuff. But still, regardless, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of manpower. And for a company like that who, you know, have other projects that they're working on, and this is just one of many, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of resources, a lot of manpower, which they probably don't want to dedicate for such a massive experience. Which I mean, that's not the right phrasing, I think. Like, I feel like they want to make it a great game, and they want to dedicate as much time as they can. But it's expensive. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of time, and they want to get something out, you know, sometime this millennia. So, it would take a lot of time. Obviously, they could just reskin a Dynasty... Say they picked a Dynasty Warriors character with an axe, and just reskin into, like, Hector. Sure, that gets the job done, but it's lazy. Longtime Dynasty Warriors fans could tell. And even if you haven't played Dynasty Warriors games, you could still probably see, like, it would still feel off if they just reskinned another character and just made him, like, hey, this character used an axe. Hector used an axe. There you go, Hector skin. So again, every character I've seen so far, as of this point, the little lolly girl from Fates was announced recently, and her playstyle looks fucking fun. And again, it's relatively unique and different. So I like that. I really like that they're trying to make unique characters out of everybody. And I'm not the biggest fan of that character, but her playstyle looks fucking awesome. So that makes me actually want to play as her a little bit at least. And, you know, try her out, see if I like pick up the style or not. But again, that takes a lot of work to make all these characters. And people who don't have any experience with game development have a harder way of seeing it, which I can understand. But try to see it from the eyes of the game developer who want to put out a project and who have to make other projects, and how long, how much dedication, how much money it would have to take. And I mean, it's hard to do that being the consumer and not the maker, but try to do that for a second. I'm not saying, you know, oh man, they're being lazy or whatnot, or oh man, you're just siding with them. I mean, I want to side with them because they're trying to make something great. But I don't know, just see it from the developer's eyes for a little while after hearing what I say, and then seeing how hard that would be. And then, you know, kind of think of it like that. But anyway, a few other things is why those 3 games in particular, because someone mentioned that if they picked 3 other games, like they picked like, you know, 3 different games instead of those ones, or Shadow Dragon and then 2 other games, why that would make more sense, which I can see that as well. But I feel like there's a few reasons why they picked those 3 games in particular. Obviously, the big one is they're more popular. Obviously, Shadow Dragon is the first game, so obviously it's considered probably one of the more popular ones. Awakening was probably one of the most popular recent ones, and basically saved the life of Fire Emblem and the franchise as a whole, and why we still are getting Fire Emblem games is because of Awakening. So that would make sense. Also, I fucking love that game. Fates, because it's the most recent game to come out. Obviously, it was Echoes, but again, I feel like Echoes came out, or Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia, that one came out technically the most recently, but it was announced after Fire Emblem Warriors was already announced. So I feel like it was already coming out too late in order for it to be added. So I feel like whenever the game comes out, whenever they do DLC, I feel like Alm and Celica are going to be either the very first set or one of the very first sets, if they do sets like that. So that one I feel like is the reason why they're not included. Another possible theory I had was, I remember at one point they said that it shouldn't just be referred to as Fire Emblem Echoes, but either Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia or Shadows of Valencia. Which is kind of a sort of an interesting thing of like, that Echoes might just be the code name for future remix of like either games we never had or older games in a newer style. So I feel like they might do something like that. Like maybe there's another Echoes in the works for either the Switch or for the 3DS, and maybe they can include characters from there whenever that comes out. Like have it be like, well, they'll support it for a while, they'll announce a new Fire Emblem game, and be like, hey, for the release of this new Fire Emblem game, we're gonna also release some characters as a DLC pack for Warriors, kind of keep it alive, you know, for about a year, maybe a few years afterwards, just like they did for Hyrule Warriors. But that's about it. I was about to make this video as like one part being my initial like replies and then another part being a separate subject, but my replies and thoughts about, you know, part 1 and my general making of part 2 took way too long, so I'm gonna have to save my next topic for next week. There probably isn't gonna be a part 3 unless there's enough to talk about to make it a video, but generally I think I'm just gonna be the last of Fire Emblem Warriors, unless there's another topic again that comes up. And then next week will probably be my new rant, which if you want to find out what that is, you're gonna have to find out next week. Until next time, this is Element 12 signing off, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you for joining me. Peace out.